So that's why I don't sing on my own albums. But anyway. We are here to talk this morning about the sixth movement of To Shiver the Sky. It's called To the Stars, and it's a setting of texts by Jules Verne, sung in French, obviously. And Gabe helped quite a bit with sourcing the texts and sort of editing them down so that they made good lyrics for this movement. Basically, Jules Verne, he was a late 19th century science fiction writer, and he was one of the first, I think, to really sort of like capture the public's imagination about, the possibilities of space flight. In my research that I was doing for this album and To Shiver the Sky, one of the things I wanted to touch upon is the idea that space flight and flight in general has sort of been the province of science fiction writers, filmmakers, and so forth from the earliest days. Long before we could actually fly to the stars, we dreamed of flying to the stars, and people wrote imaginary tales about us flying to the stars. And so I felt it was very important to actually address sort of this fictional imagination element in this album. And so where that first makes an appearance is Movement 6, Jules Verne. And you'll also hear it come back again in the very climactic finale of the album, which is a setting of JFK's "We Choose to Go to the Moon" speech. One of the things that this movement really gave me a chance to do was I wanted to have the evolution of To Shiver the Sky sort of reflect the history of classical music. And so, the earliest movements, for example, Movement 2, which I'm now calling the Heavenly Kingdom, it's based on Hildegard von Bingen texts, so it sounds very medieval. And then the third movement is based on the tale of Daedalus and Icarus, which was popularized during the Renaissance, so there's some Renaissance influence there. The fourth movement, there's some Baroque influence in the Dante movement. Fifth movement, there's sort of like late classical influence in the Copernicus movement. So we're into Movement 6 now, and this is where we really get a new sort of national sound that's very specific to a certain country. In this case, French music, around the time of Debussy and Riddell. It's very sort of impressionistic. There's a lot of focus on texture, orchestration, subtle dynamic shifts, subtle plays of color, and also some jazz influence harmonically. So what I wanted to do with this particular movement is play with all of that and really start telling the story of this multinational endeavor to reach the stars through orchestration. On va aller à la lune, on ira aux planètes, on ira aux étoiles, which means we will go to the moon, we will go to the planets, we will go to the stars. Down here, there's on établira prochainement des trains de projectiles dans lesquels se fera commodément le voyage de la Terre à la Lune. Soon we will create trains made of rocket to easily travel from the Earth to the moon. There won't be any turbulence or glitches. These are all phrases, these are all sentences that I used in this movement. And this one in particular defined a lot of the sound. It goes, l'homme a commencé par voyager à quatre pattes, puis un beau jour sur deux pieds, puis en charrette, puis en coche, puis en patache, puis en diligence, puis en chemin de fer, et bien, le projectile et la voiture de l'avenir, and so forth. It was this idea that the evolution of the quest to reach the stars was in a way sort of paralleled by the evolution and the growth of human beings, right? So we start by crawling on all fours, and then we get on our 2 feet, and then we invent the wheel, and then we invent the cart, and then the carriage, and then the train, and then the automobile, and then the plane, and then the spacecraft. And so the way I captured this, which you will hear on the final album, is I decided to record this piece starting out with a young girls choir, and the young girls sing like the first half of the piece, and then midway through it actually switches over to an adult choir, first with the women and then with the men. And then at the very end again, the young girls come back, and we had a great session at Abbey Road recording the girls' chorus from Pembroke College, Cambridge, and I can't wait to share the final recording with you all. It's sounding really great. So what I have for you today is the original sort of MIDI sketch, because what these videos are about is really my writing process, right? So I'm going to show you the writing process for all this. Now, to start with, it's basically a document where I dump a bunch of ideas on. It's like here, use Debussy La Mer as a model for Verne, right? That's one of the seminal pieces by the French impressionist composer.